first, we should probably just BS for a little bit as people kind of get notifications and filter in. And then we'll kind of get to know you guys, because I know a little bit about you too, but not a ton. And so I'd like to get to know you guys a little bit more, your history. I think some of my audience is probably more familiar because I used to buy comic books and then I stopped for a very long time and kind of fell out of that world, and have over the past year really kind of been pulled back in as that's the stuff I end up covering and the people I end up talking to. And of course that kind of piques my interest. So, you guys have like really, impressive careers doing stuff. and I'm just a guy yelling at a screen. So I like to get to know you guys a little bit better, and also introduce you to anybody in the audience who doesn't know who you are as well, if that's good for you.
Yes, that
sounds
works.
good. Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess who wants to start? Which one of you wants to give your CV first?
Chuck, you can go first if you want. Go for it.
I'll jump in. I'm a professional comic book writer. I've been writing for 35 years plus. Worked on Batman, Punisher, Savage Sword of Conan.
Yeah, but have you worked on any properties anyone's ever heard of, though?
No, I don't think so. All obscure indie, alt entertainment. So nothing makes it.
Were you invited?
Always have been.
Were you invited to write on the collaborative project Deadbeats? Because that's the only comic book I've ever heard of. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so you've had a long storied career, lots of big properties, like you said, Batman, Conan, SpongeBob. Where else might people know you if not from that stuff, or is that, I mean, that covers pretty much the entire country, I think. But
primarily I'm a comic book writer. I mean, I have some novels. I've written about 20 novels, but primarily I'm a comic book guy.
Yeah, and did I read right that you adapted The Hobbit to a graphic novel?
Yeah, that's my biggest selling project ever.
Yeah, that's it sounds like a pretty cool one.
Yeah.
Here's how oblivious I am to everything, because I didn't know that The Hobbit had a graphic novel attached to it. I mean, I figured somewhere in the back of my mind that it did, but I haven't bought graphic novels. So is it one that you get like at Barnes and Noble, or is it through?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it's like everywhere.
Oh, it's everywhere.
It's
everywhere in every language. It's all over the world. Like I said, it's my biggest seller by far.
Right.
Of anything I've worked on.
I've got to find it because I want to introduce my kids to Tolkien, and I'm not quite sure they'll appreciate, the full breadth of me just reading words at them. I think my oldest could read Tolkien just fine, but the younger ones, and I think the graphic novel is probably a great way to do that. Because the movies get a little intense for really little ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's fantastic. Oh my goodness. And okay, and so then Brett, how about you? What even are you, sir?
Most people know me as a professional color artist. I've been working. I got my start back in comics back in the mid '90s with Chaos Comics. Brian Pulido actually hired me, and that began a 25-year career. And I've worked for Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, and I've colored the Avengers, Batman, Superman, X-Men, Wolverine, and I also work in advertising as a storyboard artist. So I've kind of got these two career paths for 25 years: advertising, comics. And in advertising, I was working on things like campaigns for Chase Bank and Heineken and Miller Beer, and for a lot of the big agencies like Leo Burnett and Saatchi and McCann Erickson.
Sure.
And then back in 2016, I started creating my own graphic novels, and that began with a Clinton Cash graphic novel, which Chuck and I worked on. And I was kind of spearheaded that whole thing. I was basically the book packager, the creative director, project manager, and the editor. And that went #1 on the New York Times bestseller list and hit #1 on Amazon. And that kind of destroyed my career with Marvel and DC. But I had at that point, I had colored. I had kind of done everything I had ever wanted to do in the comic book industry, as far as working on all these 80-year-old properties that are these legacy properties.
You could join me in the wilderness.
Basically, yeah. I mean, it's funny. Chuck was the first call I made after I was offered that project. It was Peter Schweizer, who was the original author, and Steve Bannon, who approached me to adapt it back in
not
early
like the
2015.
Steve Bannon.
Yeah,
Steve Bannon.
One. Oh, wow. We have this Indiegogo campaign, Black Tide Rising Volume 1, and why don't you guys? You've talked about it's a zombie apocalypse caused by a virus. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us just kind of like, is there more of a synopsis in that? I know there's a family involved. Mm-hmm. Why should we care about them? What's their dark past that they have to overcome? I kid.
Let the writer explain their dark past.
Yeah, there really isn't one.
No. Thankfully so.
Yeah.
Wait, so it's not a family who like murdered a group of immigrants in a van back in 1967 that is constantly trying to hide that fact, or they didn't run over like a homeless child 6 weeks ago and like throw their car into the river next to Ted Kennedy's car or anything?
I don't think they even have
any of their soccer games.
I don't even think they have Guatemalans do their lawn. I think they make the teenage girls do their lawn.
Oh my goodness, how dare you? You got to have the Guatemalan. What else would they? No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, what's the story, basically, and why should we care about these characters, and why should we buy the book?
Well, I think the greatest thing about these characters is the classic, what are they going to do next? As things all go to hell in the world, it's like a thinking man's zombie, adventure story.
Sure.
These characters are problem solvers. They're not a bunch of boobs who are going to run around being panicked, at the beginning of the story. As soon as they get an understanding of what's going on in the world, they act. And that's one of the coolest things that John Ringo built into this story was they react in a very specific, military-minded way to basically not only survive but to help others. And the science of it, I usually don't like it in zombie stories where they explain the zombie, phenomenon. But John does such a compelling job of explaining the science on like a Michael Crichton level. That's
Sure.
interesting. It's going to be challenging to turn into a comic book, but it's really compelling in the prose.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
it's based on a national best-selling book series called Black Tide Rising, written by John Ringo and Mike Massa, and who are both ex-military guys. And we're dealing with a military family. The two main characters is Faith and Sophia. They're both teenage girls, and then you've got the dad, the mom, and they're a military family. The girls are competent. They're all competent. They're all trained. They all love firearms. They can, they can shoot. They all work on their dad's security team, and that's the thing that drew me to the project when the two gentlemen, Mike Lerman, approached me about it. They said, we've got the license to this, and we want to turn it into a graphic novel, and it's this already best-selling book series, so we think it can do really well in this new medium, in this new format. And also, we'd love to see this go to live action. And obviously, right now, graphic novels are probably the easiest path to go to live action, because you've got a book of high-end storyboards to present to producers, and producers are not visual people. They're not, like we talked about earlier, they're not writers, they're not visual people, they're money people. And
Right.
and unless you give them something to to show them what you want to do, they don't understand. But I'm not a huge zombie apocalypse guy, and neither is Chuck, which is kind of ironic.
No, don't speak for me.
Well,
Be quiet. You be quiet, sir. No.
I wrote a zombie apocalyptic novel. I mean, I am a zombie apocalypse guy.
I don't like Walking Dead. I've never been a fan of it. I like Night of the Comet, and I know like a couple other zombie flicks, but there you go. There you go.
That
It's fantastic.
was that still in the plastic wrap though?
Yes, it was. It just came the other day. Well, Blu-ray.
This is one of the reasons why we work together so well, is because it's just it's like a mind meld a lot of times. But you know what drew me to this story was the survival aspect, which I do like about some of the zombie movies, but it's always the protagonist is always unprepared and does stupid stuff. And what I liked about this was you're dealing with a military family, special forces. They're prepared and they're competent, and they understand how to navigate this the right way, and also, like Chuck was saying, help others. So it had two elements that I really liked: the competency, and then it's also a very hopeful story. And I liked the idea of you know, cutting against the grain of the nihilism that is baked into The Walking Dead. There's a lot of nihilism, a lot of anarchy, a lot of hopelessness, which turned me off. I made it to about season 3, to the jail, and then I just said, okay, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. This show is putting me in a really bad mood. Frankly.
I've never watched an episode.
It starts out interesting. I'll give, you know, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and bash Robert Kirkman. I'd love to be in his position, frankly, to be able to create my own books and then go and spin them off into TV shows. So kudos to him. You know, he caught lightning in a bottle and he ran with it. And, you know, I wish him nothing but, you know, best wishes and more success, frankly. But, you know, I think we can kind of, you know, fill the vacuum here with a little bit different story, which, like I said, you're dealing with characters that understand how to survive, not only survive, but thrive. And, you know, and a lot of this is takes place on the island of Manhattan in New York. And this family is prepared, not only from standpoint to possibly bug in with a lot of supplies and guns and ammo, but they decide to bug out, which I think is pretty cool. You know, get the hell out and take to the sea and try and repopulate the human species, you know, while navigating all of these infected people who are basically ravaging New York City, and just the parallels to COVID. You know, we watched kind of the panic, the toilet paper, the run on the grocery stores. Some, you know, people in Florida obviously are used to that when a hurricane comes around, but to see it happen on a national basis, I thought was really interesting, and that a lot of that ties into the book as far as how the public reacts and how there is this new normal which is accepted. And in Manhattan, in our book, the new normal is, hey, you could be out and about in Greenwich Village, and all of a sudden, the street lights come on and it's dark, and you've got zombies roaming around who are going to feast on you.
Yeah,
kind of like it is now.
Right. I was going to say, it's interesting because the country did kind of get exposed to that idea of like a run on grocery stores early on in COVID, when suddenly, like, you couldn't get toilet paper, and that was a funny joke because it's like,
water.
How much are you pooping? But it was like, yeah, water, and then deli meat for a while, and milk. Those just like.
Well, you remember the crisis with the meat. There was a meat shortage for a couple weeks, and then Trump said, "Hey, everybody's got to get back in there and go pack that meat." You know,
right?
Well, not only go pack that meat, but he allowed a change in regulations so that meat being prepared for restaurants could now be repositioned for retail.
Right.
You know, and that would have been impossible under any other president. Trust me, no other president would have figured that one out.
Yeah, and that was
the logistics.
Right. And it was right after they had ordered like the slaughter of a bunch of livestock as well.
Yeah,
which is like, why can we just eat them? Like, how about that? instead of just burying them or whatever, can I eat them? Like, can we just set those into the queue?
think about how crazy that is. You know, I mean, take all of this. I mean, cattle are expensive, man. I mean, that's big bucks.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that's a huge loss for ranchers. I mean, the idea of taking perfectly good cattle and slaughtering them because you can't get them to market fast enough, that's just nuts.
That's like burning all your money.
Yeah.
Here's my question: they're not gonna die if you don't get them to market. Like, just
No,
let
you're
them
free-
live
free
another 6 weeks.
They eat grass, for God's sakes. What, do we
Yeah.
run out of grass? There's a run on grass. There's no grass because of COVID.
You
There's
rotate
another
'em.
meat market coming in tomorrow. I promise you. If it's all bought out today, you're gonna need more tomorrow.
Pigs are they'll literally eat anything.
Right. It's
They should have let the pigs eat the cows. At least it would have been done some purpose.
exactly. Okay, so it's a capable family in a zombie apocalypse. They choose to piece out of society because they're like, okay, well, all of these morons are gonna die. I'm putting this politely, or not politely, but a bunch of people are gonna die. We've got to be the ones we've got to make sure somebody lives through this. Is kind of the impression I'm getting. And then figure out how to go. So that's pretty cool. I like this. I think this is the cover art here that I've got pulled up on stream. I don't know if you guys are able to see. Okay, and I love the look of it. That's very.
That's Dave Dorman, who is a longtime Star Wars painter. Did a lot of stuff in the 80s and the 90s. Does quite a bit of stuff now in indie comics. I've had him. I had him paint another cover for a book Chuck and I have coming out next month, or this month, called Blood. And one of the things I like about Dave is that he doesn't work digitally. He works with all traditional mediums. In fact, if you find him on Facebook, he's usually live streaming him painting. In fact, he live streamed the painting of that, and he's so much fun to watch. It's kind of like Bob Ross, but cooler. Cooler subject material.
Oh, we've got a happy little zombie, and we've got a happy little headshot over here. Just take that fan brush, and you've got the blood spray. No, sorry.
Right. No,
Dave also draws the art, unlike a lot of guys who just transfer photographs. Dave, that's all Dave. That's 100% Dave. That painting out of his mind. So.
Yeah, I just love that organic feel of traditional mediums, and it's kind of a throwback to the 80s and the 90s, and it's something that's different from sort of the Photoshop montages that you get these days. And it's just so refreshing to see. Plus, Dave he's a legend, this is a guy that, I grew up admiring his work as a fan before I was ever in the industry. So it was, it's really fun to be in my position to go out and hire him to do this stuff. And it's the same with Chuck. I mean, I grew up reading his stuff, so it's I'm the one that gets to work with all my heroes these days and tell them what to do. It's pretty cool.